Alright, this is lesson 11, about percents. Percent, word percent, literally means out of 100. Okay? So when we say percent, that's what we're talking about, something out of 100. Alright, let's get going with the examples. Alright, your first objective is to write percents as fractions. Okay, first let's write down some steps. Step 1 is to convert the percent to an improper fraction. Remember, an improper fraction is a fraction that has a numerator that's bigger than the denominator. Then we're going to multiply the denominator by 100, and then we're going to reduce if possible. Okay? So let's look at some examples here. Oops. Okay. So for A, write 1% as a fraction. First we convert the percent to an improper fraction. Okay, so I'm going to take the percent that I have, it's 1%, and write it so that it's an improper fraction. Well, anytime we have a whole number and we want to write it as a percent, we take it and put it over 1. Okay, so it's 1 over 1. Then I'm going to multiply the denominator by 100. Okay, so I'm going to multiply this number by 1 over 100. Well, on the top, 1 times 1 is 1, and 1 times 100 on the bottom is 100. Then we're going to reduce if possible. It's not possible to reduce 1 over 100, so we're done. Okay? Let's try the second example. Example B. 33 and 1/3%. Again, we got to convert the percent to an improper fraction. So the first thing we have to talk about is how to convert 33 and 1/3 to an improper fraction. Well, you should remember this. I like to call it the wheel, or times plus. Okay, where we take the denominator times the big number, and then we add in the numerator. Okay, so I'm going to take 3 times 33 and get 99, and then add 1, that's 100. And that's my new top number. My bottom number is the same denominator as I had before. It's 3. So there's 33 1/3 as an improper fraction. We're again going to multiply. Okay, we're going to multiply the denominator by 100. And we leave the top alone, so it's the same as multiplying by 1. Then we multiply across. 1 times 100 on top is 100. On the bottom, 3 times 100 is 300. Now we reduce this. Okay, we have to simplify it. Well, we should know that when we have zeros on top and bottom, we can just cross them out, and all that's left is 1/3. So 33 1/3% is the same as 1/3. And let's go to one final example, 100%. Again, the first thing you do is write it as an improper fraction. So we take the number and put it as the numerator and put it over 1. Then I'm going to multiply that by 1 over 100. Okay? Oh, there's two different ways you can do this. We can multiply straight across the top. 1 times 100 is 100. And across the bottom, 1 times 100 is 100. And 100 over 100 simplifies down to 1. Okay? The other way you can do this, and you should have learned this before, is to cross simplify. Okay? You look for the numerator on one side and the denominator on the other and see if they go into each other. Well, 100 goes into 100. 100 divided by 100 is 1. 100 divided by 100 is 1. And then you multiply across the tops. 1 times 1 is 1. And on the bottom you also get 1. So the answer is still just 1. Either way. Okay, two different ways to solve that. So that's converting a percent to a reduced fraction. Alright, let's move on to the next objective. Alright, let's talk objective 2, shall we? Well, I think we shall anyway. So objective 2 is to write fractions as percents. So now we're going the other way. Again, you got steps to write down. First step is to multiply the fraction by 100%. Then you're going to divide. Then we're going to write the remainders as a reduced fraction if we have any. Okay? So again, let's look at 3 different examples. We'll go ahead and move this up here. Example A. 3/4. First thing I'm going to do is take 3/4 and multiply it by 100%. We put 100% Now to multiply with fractions, we got to put a denominator on it, so 100% is going to go over 1. Okay? Now again, we can use the cross-canceling method. If we look at the numbers on the top versus the bottom ones, 3 and 1 can't simplify, but 104 can, because 4 goes into 100. Okay, so we're going to cross these out. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 100 divided by 4 is 25. And now we're going to multiply. Okay, multiply the tops. 3 times 25 is 75. The bottoms, 1 times 1 is 1, so we don't need the bottom. Then we got to throw our percent sign on. 75%. Okay, let's go to part B. Part B, 1/3. Again, you're going to multiply the fraction by 100%. And you're going to put 100% over 1. Well, if we look here, 1 and 1 can't simplify, and 3 and 100 can't simplify, so we just have to multiply straight across. 1 times 100 is 100, and 3 times 1 is 3. Okay, now I've got to divide, because I can't leave this. Alright? So I've got to divide it. So I'm going to take 100 and divide it by 3. Well, 3 doesn't go into 1, but it goes into 10 3 times. And 3 times 3 is 9, and I subtract. And bring down my 0. 3 goes into 10 3 times. I get 9. Okay? Well, now I've got 33 with the remainder of 1. So 33, my answer up here, is going to be my big number. Oops, better get my pen. This number down here, the remainder, is the numerator of my fraction. And then this number over here, the side number, is the denominator of my fraction. So it's 33 and 1/3, and again we were looking for percent. 33 and 1/3%. And again, if you forget where the numbers went, 33 went right here. 1 went right here. And 3 went right here when we divide those. Alright, and let's look at example C. We'll make ourselves some room here. Example C is 3/8. Again, we're going to multiply 3/8 by 100%. Now again, I can simplify first, because 8 and 100 both have a number that goes into them. Okay, 4 goes into each one. Well, 8 divided by 4 is 2. 100 divided by 4 is 25. Okay, well, across the top, 3 times 25 is 75. On the bottom, 2 times 1 is 2. So again, now we've got to divide 75 divided by 2. 2 goes into 7 3 times, and 3 times 2 is 6. Subtract, and I get 15. 2 goes into 15 7 times. 2 times 7 is 14. And again, I got a remainder there. So, big number is the answer I got when dividing, 37. Numerator is my remainder. And the outside number of my division problem is the denominator. It's 37.5%. Okay? And that is how to take fractions and convert them into percentages. Now let's do some real life examples. Alright, and our last objective, we got 2 examples for. Use percents and real world application problems. First kind of problem is when we need to find, or when we have a percentage and we need to convert it to a fraction. Okay, so first step is to convert the percent to a fraction. Then you're going to multiply by the other number you're given in the problem, and then you're going to reduce if possible and answer the question. Okay, now remember on word problems, on your test, you can't do this in your book because it's your book, but on your test I'd like you to circle the things you know for sure. Well, we know that 40% of the students rode the bus. We know there are 30 students. And then underline what we want to know. We want to know how many rode the bus. Okay? So the first thing is to convert the percent to a fraction. So I'm going to take 40% and convert it to a fraction. So remember, to convert a percent to the fraction, I got 40%. I want to write it as an improper fraction first, and then multiply it by 1 over 100, because I need a denominator of 100, because percent means out of 100. Okay, now again, I can reduce first. Okay, I know that 20 goes into both 40 and 100, and 40 divided by 20 is 2, and 100 divided by 20 is 5. Then I can go ahead and multiply the top. 2 times 1 is 2, and 1 times 5 is 5 on the bottom. So I've got my percent as a reduced fraction. Okay, now I'm going to multiply by the other number in the problem. Well, I already used 40%. The other number is 30. So I'm going to multiply this by 30. And again, we want to multiply by a whole number. We put it over 1. Well, let's go ahead and cross cancel first. 5 goes into 30. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 30 divided by 5 is 6. And when I multiply, across the top, 2 times 6 is 12. On the bottom, 1 times 1 is 1, so we don't need it. Okay, step 3 says reduce if possible. Well, 12 doesn't reduce. Then we need to answer the question. It says how many students rode the bus? So it's 12 students. That's 40% of the 30 students. It's 12 students. Alright, let's go on to our last example. Alright, so last example. Here we want to know percent. Okay? And we're trying to convert between a quart and a gallon. So this is back to those conversion problems. The first thing I need to do is write a fraction for the conversion, and then find the equivalent percent from that fraction. So convert the fraction into a percent. Alright, so a quart is what percent of a gallon? So I've got gallons, and I've got quarts. Okay, we gotta know the conversion. Well, 1 gallon is equal to 4 quarts. Okay? Well, that means that a quart then is 1/4 of a gallon, because there's 4 quarts in 1 gallon. So a quart is equal to 1/4 of a gallon. Then I want to know, so there's my fraction, and it's reduced already. I want to know what percent is 1/4 equal to. Now again, I know some of you could do this in your head and tell me what it is, but I want you to show me the work. So remember, convert to a percent, we multiply by 100% over 1. We can cross simplify first, because 4 goes into 100. So 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 100 divided by 4 is 25. And then I multiply across. 1 times 25 is 25. On the bottom I get 1 times 1 is 1. So then I got to think, it says I'm asking what percent, so it's 25%. So a quart is 25% of a gallon, 1/4 of a gallon. Alright, you have any questions, make sure you ask. Otherwise, happy homeworking. Enjoy.